Well, just to start, I really want to thank the Geneva Water Hub for hosting and organizing this amazing session. We have guests from all over the world, very high-level guests that will engage dialogues with young leaders. So really, I want to express my thank you very much to the Geneva Water Hub. So without further, we will start with François Méjar, the director of the Geneva Water Hub.
Thank you, Laurie. Dear participants, the sustainable management of fresh water, the security of fresh water is a vital issue of this century. Water is at the center of health security, of food security, energy security, and environmental security. In a nutshell, water security is in the core of human security. Access to water is both a source of conflict, but also a powerful vector of cooperation, and even more, a powerful instrument for peace. This is the value of water. It is with this positive vision that the Geneva Water Hub acts. The Geneva Water Hub, we are a global center of the University of Geneva, specialized in hydropolitics and hydrodiplomacy. We want to better understand and contribute to the prevention of tension and water-related conflict, considering the conflict of uses between sectors, between political entities, between states. We are the Secretariat of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, a panel that has been supported by 15 co-governing countries, and that has been that presented his report and recommendation in 2013. Our colleague Danilo Turk, former president of Slovenia, and who occupied very high function in the UN for a long time, has been the chair of this panel. He's present today. We are committed to extend the panel reflection, to contribute to the achievement of the panel recommendation, and to influence the political agenda in this direction. The hub has three main functions. The first one is the research and university training. The second one, a think tank. And the third, a political advocacy. What are our relations with the youth? First, as I already said, we have a solid function in research and academic education. We are creating a large global academic network on hydropolitics and hydrodiplomacy. Our colleague Lena Salame, present today, is at the head of this development. Mara, our colleague Mara, is in charge and is our lead specialist on international water law. The second relation with the youth, it's taking part of the 8th World Water Forum in Brasilia in 2018. The Geneva Water Hub, as the International Secretariat for Water, with the Youth Parliament, jointly launched the internet platform, Youth for Water and Peace, with the idea to have a fresh voice and vision in our think tank capacity. This space on our website is in place. It is your space. Jointly with the International Secretariat for Water, we have also conducted various international dialogue during important international events. And more recently, the Geneva Water Hub, with its partner, the International Association of Lake Regions, we have invited 2 youths to participate in a tripartite dialogue among more than 40 experts around the drama of water. Finally, the youth are also one of the social nodes of the Global Observatory on Water and Peace. My colleague, Natasha Karmi, will elaborate on this. But before to give the floor to Natasha, once again, water security is a serious issue. It's a matter of survival, the Global High-Level Panel said. Natasha, you have the floor.
Thank you, Francois. Let me just share my screen. It will make, I think, okay. So, first, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. It's always a pleasure for me to take part in these intergenerational dialogues. As Francois mentioned, the youth are one of the societal nodes of the Global Observatory on Water and Peace. And before we talk about the contribution, I would like to briefly explain to those of you who are not familiar with the Global Observatory what it is. So during the discussions among the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace and leading to the issuing of the recommendations in their report, A Matter of Survival, the 7th chapter of the report tackled the new mechanisms of hydrodiplomacy. There had been actually earlier concerns that were voiced about the lack of agency among the different actors in water cooperation beyond the technical aspect. And this lack of agency was not really institutional. It was more in reference to the existing gap that exists in international cooperation beyond the technical aspect. It was definitely not targeting the need to have a new institution, but rather to have a new global network that would be able to really bring to the global level the value of using water as a vehicle of peace. That is why within the recommendations of the panel, and particularly in relation to Chapter 7, the panelists recommended the establishment of the Global Observatory on Water and Peace. And with the Geneva Water Hub being the secretariat to the panel and responsible for the implementation of the recommendations of the panel, we have jointly launched with our partners during the 5th Arab Water Week at the Dead Sea in Jordan, the Global Observatory on Water and Peace. Again, to be clear, the Global Observatory is not an institution. What it is, it's a network that is made up of entities that bring together, on one hand, the analytical skills that are very much needed to understand the complex issues of water within the context of peace building, and on the other hand, the diplomatic qualities in order to be able to bring together stakeholders to address sensitive issues and collectively think about practical solutions by creating these discrete safe spaces. At present, the Geneva Water Hub is the central node of this network. However, our fundamental intention is really to induce the genuine ownership of the Global Observatory by the different partners to the network. At present, we have two kinds of partnerships, or what we usually refer to as node. We have the regional partners, including the MENA, West Africa, Central Asia, Latin America, Russia, Europe, including the Geneva International. And we have the societal partners who actually reflect the vision and the direction of youth, women, media, and local voices. The current mode of the operation of the observatory is rather flexible, and it's open for new partners that are committed to the water and peace agenda. Briefly, what the Global Observatory does, it focuses on hydrodiplomacy beyond joint water management, it channels expertise across regions, matches stakeholders, maintains a list of expertise, facilitates training and development, and most importantly, addresses local concerns through analysis. As part of the mandate of the Global Observatory, the Observatory will be producing an annual analytic report on the developments and the trends. This report will be compiled by the Geneva Water Hub by actually putting in together the individual reports of the partners. What is the aim of this analytical report? It's really to perpetuate the reflections of the panel by using the same analytical framework that was adopted by applying it to either regional or contextual situations to identify gaps, challenges, lessons learned, existing or emerging solutions, as well as potential for new relevant topics to consider. Most importantly, it looks to produce a hydropolitical analysis that contributes to peace and cooperation. Last year, almost a year ago, we have actually started to work on this report with our different partners. And each partner has developed their own report reflecting the key areas based on their expertise, their knowledge, and the regional and societal reflections as to how we could actually capitalize on this potential of using water as a vehicle of peace. In December 2020, a virtual roundtable was organized among the different partners to present and exchange on their various contributions. As mentioned earlier, the youth have also contributed to the upcoming analysis and the roundtable, and through 4 regional reflections on priority areas. So today, our 4 intergenerational dialogues will be based on these youth contributions and to enable us to exchange with our experts. So allow me now to pass on the floor to my colleague, Lena Salami, who will be moderating the first of these dialogues on the Central Asian region. On to you, Lena.
Thank you, Natasha. So for our session, we have two participants from Central Asia, one representing the youth and one representing the community of experts. So the youth is represented by Jania Kaibulina. I am really sorry if I scratched your name, Jania. So Jania is the national coordinator, for Central Asia Youth for Water, and she specialized in IWRM and working in Kazakhstan. And then we have Dinara. For those who don't know Dinara, she's the Deputy Director of the Scientific Information Center of the Interstate Commission for Water Coordination. So more shortly, SIC-ICWC. And within this institution, she is responsible for legal and international affairs. She supervises the Department of Planning, International Relations, and Capacity Building. So to start with, I will invite Jania to make her intervention. Please, you can put yourself, okay, you are unmuted already. Jania, please go ahead.
Hello to everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very proud to be part of it. Yeah, you were right. My name is Jania Kaibulina. I'm National Coordinator of Central Asia Youth for Water in Kazakhstan. Well, let's start. I will be a speaker without presentation, if you allow me. Okay, let's start. Well, today, our planet is facing the greatest water crisis due to the scarcity of drinking water, due to the irrational water management, and as well as the uncoordinated conflicting interests turning water distribution into a major source, increasing tensions between the states. The residents of Central Asia and of course of the youth in Central Asia are familiar with water issues like irrational usage of Sirdarya and Amudarya rivers, which led to the shrinkage of Aral Sea, climate change, which caused the Pamir and Tian Shan glaciers melt. You know, every year hundreds of settlements get flooded, and while even more have no access or have limited access to drinking water, they have an access at scheduled time, and they have to save every drop. Our region is famous with its the Aral Sea disaster, which is the result of uneven distribution by human. And it is an alarming signal indicating that all human activities with potential climate effects must be carefully thought through. Everybody knows about Aral Sea, but only few people know about other challenges faced by the youth of the countries in Central Asia. For example, Central Asia faced climate change, growing globalization, growth of the world's population, the limited natural resources. Moreover, Central Asia countries at regional level cannot agree in water distribution because they have conflict of interests between upstream and downstream countries. It is important that young people can make a significant contribution in solving complex problems. How could we create the links between young people in Central Asia? The youth is civil society movement. We see the solution of existing problems in involving young people in the decision-making processes and in strengthening regional water cooperation and diplomacy through joint efforts and personal connections. There are different capacity building initiatives from international development partners, but are they effective? How do they fit into the local context? How to internalize them and make local initiatives appear? How to make local young people start doing something and not just silently accept initiatives from outside? Simple solutions are working solutions. In Central Asia, the youth is more complicated. Do you know that young people now are growing and brought up by elder generation that grew up in Soviet times? So please, Ms. Dinara, could you please answer the question? What should we as a regional network connecting youth in Central Asia do? What would be your advice? How to be prepared to the challenges in Central Asia? Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Janya. Thank you. This was spot on. Dinara, please. The floor is yours. You have 5 minutes to answer this very simple question.
Thank you very much. First of all, for inviting me. And I would like to congratulate everyone with Nowruz that we celebrate these days. I see many colleagues from Central Asia. And yeah, I was listening, Jania, and actually, I was a bit disappointed with the very pessimistic view that she has about the region, about the challenges we have, and about the legacy that we have. I think everything is not that bad. Of course, the region is famous of the Aral Sea disaster, but we also have many other things to be proud of. And I really think it is important not only think about the challenges, but also achievements that we have in the region. Having all these difficulties with the Soviet legacy of environmental disasters and irrational water use, we in the region managed to do so many good things and to preserve peace. Because as you all mentioned, the water is a source of tensions, but we managed to preserve the peace. And I would say for the youth, not only for the youth, but it's our joint task is to bring more positive image of the region of Central Asia, that we can transform all the challenges that we have to something good and positive, and we can teach some good lessons to the world, so we can share these experiences. And I think the good thing that with the youth, that we all been there, so we know how you feel and what the challenges you face, and how actually we as older generation can help you to integrate into the community. And I think it's a two-sided story. It's not only about us accepting you, but it's also about you being ready to become a part of community, because everything that we do here is to be a community. It's being a part of the bigger community family of water. And so I think it's in addition to building capacities, to empowerment, I think it's very important to build this sense of community, be a part of the family and part of community that wants to change things for the positive. And I think it's about the commitment. It's not one day task. It will take some time, and it's not always easy. It's not the sector that will provide you with the many benefits, material benefits, but you have to be committed in these not very easy circumstances to continue doing things that you feel are important. And with the links that you were asking, how to build the links, I think the most important thing is to build the links between the youth and also youth and older generation is to have the shared experiences, to have the joint trainings, to have joint programs, and also to have joint actions to change something on the ground. If you will have such experiences among your colleagues, among your generation, among other people, I think it will really cement you in this task, and you will never give up your intentions to be part of the community, and will be the one who will bring this tracking form. That's it for now.
Thank you very much, Dinara. So I understand that to Jania's very interesting question and complex question, you are suggesting that both the youth and the older experts have to give each other a hand and work really together in the objective of building capacity, committing to the long term, accepting one another's, each other's perceptions and needs and expectations in order to really build a solid community that can work together, and where the older generation recognizes the role of the youth and where the youth recognizes the added value of the older generation. I say older generation, everything is relative. It doesn't mean that you, yeah. So Laurie, do we have questions from the audience to Jania and Dinara?
Not so far, but I have a question myself.
Please, Laurie.
I really like the words from Dinara about sharing. We need to have shared experience. And actually, my question is to Jania. Do you see that you have opportunities to actually have shared experience in Central Asia as a young leader, or you face some challenges to gain access to those experiences?
Thanks for your questions. Thanks for this question. Well, let me think. As a young researcher, I have an array of opportunities in my country. For example, to have trainings in academic writing, which is conducted, for example, by OEC Academy. I also, but with what to say about the joint experience? Well, I didn't see because I don't know what is the problem, but there is no data sharing, between the countries. And for example, most of young people who address the questions to our network, for example, they ask for some data to use in their articles, for example, but it is very difficult to get them.
Mm-hmm. So Jania, you feel that there is some kind, because of your position, you have some kind of access to exchanges with the older generation, but it is not enough. And so what about your relationship with other young people across the borders? Are there exchanges among them? Do you have some kind of trustworthy relationship among the youngsters across the region? Is there trust and exchanges? Is there a solid network of communication? How do you describe this? Are you, as a youth community, a solid community?
Well, I'm national coordinator from November of last year, and due to the pandemic issues, I wasn't able to organize some regional events and to meet all of these youth in Central Asia. So I just have organized the event in December, and it was only on national level. And describing this event, I can say that our youth, even youth in Kazakhstan, is very inactive. They don't ask questions on how to be involved in these initiatives in Central Asia. So, but on regional level, there were no answers and no questions.
Yeah. So the feeling is that they need a boost. There is a need for a boost of the younger generation. I have a question here in the chat to Dinara. What is the best way to establish an intergenerational dialogue, considering that the role of the youth is still in the process of becoming more solid and more accepted, which is a natural follow-up of what we've been discussing with Janya? Dinara?
I think it has to be a very systematic approach. It's not a one-time event. It should not be very chaotic events. We have to introduce this intergenerational link always, in all meetings, in all conferences, in all programs. It's like with the gender, many years ago, it was kind of aligned term and concept, and we did not even know what about to talk when we talk about the gender issues. So we have to make it more explicit and have certain checklist, for example, for programs, for projects, for events, how to introduce youth. And when we talk about the youth, I think we have to also understand that youth is quite a big social category. We also have to talk about the competence and talented youth and interested youth. So we also have to stimulate them to become more competent, to bring the innovation and desire. And for this, to be able to attract this talented young generation, we in the water sector has to make the water sector more attractive for the youth, make it more compatible. So this talented youth want to come to us and bring the innovation. And I think this is the most important challenge. We're not anymore, we cannot compete with the more or probably energy sector, where the salaries is much higher than in the water sector. And as much as we're trying to attract the talented youth, it's very difficult because we cannot provide enough motivation for them to be so talented and to bring all the innovation and technology and all the great ideas into the sector. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of the two-way. We cannot expect too much from them, but we have to something to offer to attract the new generation into our field.
Thank you very much. So before I hand over to my colleague for the next session, I feel that we have we've come to some kind of agreement on the fact that the young generation is feeling that there is an interest. It wants to reach out to the older, to the experts generation, and the expert generation is suggesting that there is a place for the youngsters. We have to make it part of the DNA of the action of the experts, So it has to become one of the criteria, like the involvement of the young ones has to be a criteria of every other meeting, every event. In addition, we have to make the water sector attractive to the young ones and competitive with other with other fields of professional activities. So there is a will from the young ones to be involved. There is a will from the experts to get them involved, and it has to become a long-term and consistent way of thinking in order to really involve both generations and make them work well together. So now with this, unless I have other instructions, I'm going to hand it over to Mara and start, so she can start with the next session. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Lena. So welcome to the second intergenerational dialogue on Europe. And so my name is Mara, and I'm a reader at the Faculty of Law and the Institute for Environmental Sciences at the University of Geneva and lead legal specialist at the Geneva Water Hub. So our next speakers are Ashmik Barsegian. I hope that I pronounced well. So she's the president of the European Youth Parliament for Water, and she has studied, among other places, in France and in Germany, and she has a specific interest in water and energy policies. Then our expert is Professor Danilo Turk, who is a former president of Slovenia and also was a chairman of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. And he was the UN assistant to the General Secretary for Political Affairs. So to start this dialogue, my first question is to Ashmik. So what are the key priorities that the European youth movement as identified in the report to the Global Observatory on Water and Peace?
Well, thank you very much for question, Mara. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. And also thank you very much for this exceptional opportunity of dialogue with Dr. Turk and all the top experts. The European Youth contribution is on water, youth, and the pursuit of multilateralism. When we talk about peace and conflicts, there's a fine line that separates it from politics and all the complicated work behind it. Challenges can be solved if we set the rules of the game beforehand, if we have an evidence-based and holistic approach. It means to take a position according to our values and principles and calling things by their real names. What is the position of the youth? Before, during, and after the armed conflicts, European youth are standing for peace, environmental sustainability, and humanitarian principles in all parts of the world, beyond political boundaries, in the European Union and beyond Europe, in the larger Europe. Access to water and sanitation is a human right, and we stand for democratic water governance. All the recommendations of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace should be implemented. But we know that in practice, we have some limitations, and saving the environment is the last thing in priority list of sites of armed conflicts. For example, during the recent war, burning of the forest of Nagorno-Karabakh by chemical phosphorus weapons that remain on the land for a long time had impact on groundwater sources and rivers. So the population of the conflict zone is in general, they get the heaviest blow. So our first message is sustainable water resources management and protecting the environment should be one of the top priorities, even during time of conflict and armed conflict. In some cases, we see that water is used as a weapon, as a tool to put pressure on the other side. So, for example, when an upstream country is building several water dams and significantly decreases water flow to put political and economic pressure on its neighbor, on the downstream country. Another example is when water infrastructures, hydropower plants, dams, drinking water supply, sewerage and irrigation systems are deliberately targeted, aiming to expel the population of the conflict zone and to gain military advantage. It was the case the case of the armed conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh, when the key infrastructures were severely damaged and the population was left without conditions, and especially during this corona times, it was very heavy for them. Another major concern is to protect water sources and water bodies from pollution and from the risk of stopping water supply for agricultural use. This also concerns water. We need to consider that even though the armed conflict has stopped, but the conflict can be ongoing. And we have witnessed ethnic cleansing and hate speech toward the population of Nagorno-Karabakh years before and during the recent war. So our second key message is the human right to water of people in the conflict zones should be considered and embedded in the political agreements. And like follow-up to this message, the reinforcement of multilateralism by joining all our efforts and using water for peace will help in increasing the stability in the European Union and in the European neighborhoods. Indivisibility and diffuse reciprocity are the very core of multilateralism. Cooperation between people from the same river catchment area, neighboring countries or municipalities is of utmost importance. We see European youth in water as leaders in facilitating dialogue and communication on sensitive topics and taboos, and as pioneers in preventing future conflicts.
Thank you, Ashmik. So now I turn to Professor Turk, and I would like to ask, as a former diplomat, how European Union institutions, policymakers, and academics can support the European youth movement to achieve these priorities. Over to you.
We can't listen to you, Dr. Turk.
We cannot listen.
I thought, yeah, okay. I thought I was unmuted automatically. So I have unmuted myself now, and I would like to say that I'm very pleased to be involved in this discussion, which shows, among other things, that the whole involvement of youth is progressing and progressing very well. I'm very happy to be under the chairmanship of Mara Tiguinho, who has done a lot of work for the international legal aspects of international water cooperation, in particular with the Geneva principles on protection of water infrastructure in armed conflicts. And therefore, during this discussion, I would like to respond first to a few comments made by our introductory speaker, Hasmik Barsegyan. I think she gave a very well-structured and very clear, very precise presentation of the problems, and I generally agree with her diagnosis as well as her approach to solutions. Now, I would like to make two comments about the ongoing conflicts or situations in the European area where conflict is of a low intensity or is at a stage where an international peacekeeping force is involved. In these situations, I think it is very important to keep water as an element of the arrangements intended to stabilize the situation and move the peace process further. Now, that's easier said than done, but the important thing to understand is that water issues are environmental issues, but they are about the survival of civilian population. I mean, in the international law, there is no other older rule than prohibition of starvation of civilian population. And this is where water issues belong in armed conflict, irrespective of whether they are at the intensive phase or whether the armed conflicts are calmed down through a peacekeeping operation. Prevention of starvation of civilian population is the key to the approach, and that has to be pursued. Now, of course, a variety of international humanitarian organizations, in particular the Red Cross, are involved, and they have specific practical solutions to problems. I'm not familiar with the current work of humanitarian organizations in Nagorno-Karabakh, but I know that, for example, in Ukraine, there have been very clear proposals to establish protective zones for protection of critical infrastructure, and water infrastructure is a critical infrastructure. So this is as far as armed conflicts and peacekeeping operations and post-conflict situations are concerned. But I would also like to say just a couple of words responding to your question, Mara, about what could young people do to mobilize the diplomats, academic circles, and so forth. Well, look, let me be rather specific in this context, because there are many things that can be half of 2021. Is one of the priorities of its entire presidency. So in the second half of this year, Slovenia will be very much at the center of these activities. Organizations of young people should simply insist to be involved. Question to Dinara Ziganshina about how to attract young people to studying water issues. That's an important question. Now, my suggestion would be, among other things, of course, provide programs in the schools from relatively early stage, which allow young people to do some water-related research in places where they live. I have seen this work done in Slovenia in schools, even in elementary schools, but certainly at the secondary level, where young people go out and research the water issues in the area where they live. And they came with fascinating outcomes, which attracted a lot of public attention and public discussion. So these are some of the things that I wanted to say. And obviously, I'm very happy that our discussion is proceeding so well, and in a very rich, in a sense, with a very rich content. Thank you.
Thank you. Many thanks for also this invitation to the European Youth Movement to be part of the next period of time of the Slovenian EU presidency. So I think if we don't have a question, I think that we are a little bit beyond time. So I would, if there are no questions, I think.
Mara, we just received one question. Maybe we can allow space for one question, if it's okay. Here from Julian, we have, how can we make the water sector more attractive beyond research and engineering, especially considering that their discussion also have a heavy legal focus?
Well, my answer, I gave that answer before. I think as far as young people are concerned, I think there should be arrangements in schools to allow young people to do their own independent research in their own environment. Now, see, I'm coming from Slovenia, which is a water-rich country and where we have a good tradition of water management. So I'm not talking about a dramatic problem, but young people are very sensitive. That's what we discovered. And then when problems arise as a result of investment, building new factories, even shopping malls and so forth, young people can be extremely important part of the civil society engagement in such situations. We have many, open disputes on this sort of things, using rivers, using smaller water resources, threats to the environmental safety for the future and so forth. And much of that is based on what young people do themselves, without that being a prescribed thing. I mean, they have to be given an opportunity, and schools can do that.
So maybe what is the opinion of Ashmik, how to make more attractive the water sector?
This is a very good question. Thank you, Julian. From my perspective, I think it's important to consider the transversal role of water. Case, I think youth will be more engaged and more interested to water when they will understand that water is everywhere.
Okay, sure, agreed.
So thank you, Ashmik. I think that we can now pass to the next dialogue on the MENA. So I pass the floor to Natasha. Many thanks again to both our speakers. Thanks.
Thank you, Mara. Again, it's a pleasure for me to be moderating this session, particularly on the MENA and with fellow Agis. So basically, I'm pleased to welcome Ahmed as a representative of the youth for the MENA region, who actually graduated from the Islamic University of Gaza in biotechnology. He has hands-on experience in agriculture. He has worked with the Ministry of Agriculture. He was also assisting as an assistant at the Islamic University. He then continued his engagement, and he is currently completing almost his master's degree in agriculture biotechnology, and he joined the Blue Peace as a Blue Peace facilitator for the World Youth Parliament for Water, and is the theme coordinator for the Mediterranean Youth for the Water Network. So welcome, Ahmed. And it gives me also great pleasure to welcome a friend, a mentor, and also, from my alma mater, the American University of Beirut, Dr. Rabia Mukhtar, who is now holding the seat of the Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences. He's also a professor at Texas A&M. He is the governor of the World Water Council, an executive board member of the International Water Resources Association. In relation, to our discussions, Rabia has actually founded the Water Energy Food Nexus Initiative, and he's also an affiliate of the Energy Institute. In the MENA and at the AUB, Rabia has also established the WEFRA initiative, which is the Water, Energy, Food, Health, Nexus Renewable Resources. So I'm very glad to have you both here, and I would like to start, with Ahmed. In regard to the contribution and the key area that was identified by the MENA youth team. You considered among all of the other potential solutions in which you could possibly use water as a vehicle for peace building, you considered that agriculture, biotechnology is the one that was highest in terms of your priority. So could you tell us a little bit about that and why agriculture, biotechnology in particular? The floor is yours, Ahmed.
Thank you very much, Natasha, for this introduction. First of all, in the MENA region, we can see that the percentage of water is being used for agriculture. It's about 75 to 90% of the water use. And most of these use have been misused in land by heavy irrigation in the MENA region. And this lead for imbalance between the available water supply and rising water demand. So we can take on consideration also that the MENA region has some severe climate condition and limit water resource, restrict commercial agricultural production in the MENA region. So in general, in the MENA region, like about 17 countries out of 21 have crossed the water security threshold of 1,000 cubic meter of renewable water resource per capita per year. And also in this year, we are valuing water, and we can take in our consideration that water has multiple values. And in the respect of the youth and the younger professional are less likely to be certified in singular sector or disciplines than highly specialized mid-career professional. The broader, more open perspective of youth can be a valuable tool in generating, connecting between water and other activities like agriculture sector that can share benefit between the group and to promote peace in the MENA region. And when we are speaking about biotechnology in more precisely, we can see that the agriculture biotechnology offer an unpredictable opportunity to address some of the world's most serious issues, including hunger, poverty, and disease, and also the scarcity of water in the region. We can say that this because biotechnology can commemorate the species barrier that prevent useful traits from being introduced into plant by conventional breeding. And also, youth in these regions take initiative solution highly selective for plants that can be adopted for all the challenge that face in this region. And we use this to be used in appropriate irrigation to fix this solution, fix this problem in general. So this could be the most specific areas that youth had contribute in the agriculture in general to make peace building and water in the MENA region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Dr. Rabia, as Dean of FAFS, I mean, do you think that, the direction that Ahmed and his, fellow colleagues in the youth, from the MENA youth, are they on track in terms of, agriculture, biotechnology, the opportunities that it offers? And, could you tell us, from the perspective of the WAFRA initiative, would it in any way offer opportunities for Ahmed and his fellow youth? On to you.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you. This is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing me to be with you and learn from these young scholars, something that we have missed throughout our journey. Ahmed, you are absolutely on track, and I'm gonna affirm your belief in biotechnology in one simple challenge that I challenge you and I challenge everybody in the room and a bigger young scholar community. I remember when we were building the Qatar National Environment and Energy Institute in Qatar, in Doha, we were discussing with solar engineers about the theoretical limit of the solar power. At the time, the efficiency was about 11%, and now they're approaching 15%. They're approaching the theoretical limit. So building on what you just described in terms of the role of biotechnology in the nexus between food and water, in particular in the MENA region, and to a larger extent, all the dry land of the world. What is the theoretical limit of water and food linkages? And I asked you to go back to the photosynthetic reaction that takes water and sun energy, and catalyzes that into, it creates, and actually carbon from the air, it creates biomass. So the theoretical limit of this photosynthetic process is way, way, way less than the figures that you approached. You correctly stated that the footprint for water in the MENA and at a larger extent globally is way more than the theoretical limit of converting water plus the carbon and catalyzed by sun energy into carbohydrate. And I challenge all of us to do the same thing as other engineering disciplines and other technology disciplines, to take this as a challenge to push the boundary of knowledge. How can we reduce the water footprint for food production? You're correctly stated that we need to maybe not double, but match the population growth and make sure that we deliver not only the biomass, but the healthy diet for people in the MENA and for the population at large. So the challenge for you would be, how can we increase the production without tolling, and actually by reducing, increase production of food, of healthy, nutritious food, by reducing the water footprint. And you are on the right track. Biotechnology is one of those solutions that we need to look at, maybe stomatal management to reduce the evapotranspiration, maybe looking into healthy indoor production of food. But you are absolutely on the right track. And I think I would like to see more young people like you interested in agriculture technology. I think one of the biggest challenges for us in the academic field in this area is that we don't have enough young people interested in agriculture, in food security, in water security. In fact, today, right before I joined you, I was meeting with the registrar to look at the projections for next year. Numbers don't look good. So you guys, you should be the ambassadors for the discipline all over the world, because this is the future, your future, your generation future, to secure healthy food for the planet. And you are absolutely on the right track. Natasha, thank you for also giving me the opportunity to talk about WAFRA. For the non-Arabic speakers, WAFRA is abundant. And I truly, genuinely believe that abundance can only be created moving to the future by synergy, and the synergy that is created by the interaction between water, energy, food, and health. So the system of systems that we describe is very complex. It also has a lot of quantification that needs to be determined to allow us to understand these complexities. Several of the speakers mentioned these complexities. What we try to do in WAFRA is to quantify these interactions, but also reduce the interdependencies. What does reducing that interdependency is exactly what Ahmed is talking about, is to reduce the water footprint, reduce the interdependency of food production on water. And this is one of the main challenges that we face. As a result of this reducing the interdependencies, we increase the system resilience, we increase community resilience. And the last thing I want to talk about is how is this impacting human health? The health is a newcomer to the Nexus community, and I think AUB has been a pioneer in that. And we would like to look at health not only as a healthcare. People talking about health as if health is defined by healthcare. Healthcare is one dimension of health, but let's not forget that health is also a resource. So a healthy community is the one that's going to be producing more of the resources and managing all of these resources. So let's not think of health as only the burden, but it's also a synergistic resource that we need to manage. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabia. Ahmed, quick question. Rabia mentioned that basically, there aren't enough youth that are basically, interested, or, they have an interest in actually pursuing, agricultural sciences. Does that in any way, is that from your perspective, is that related to the fact that maybe experts are not giving the right space for the youth?
Thank you. I think there is maybe we can see that no enough space between, or we can misunderstand between the youth and the expert in the region. And we hope this could be fixed in the near future. But we can see the consequences of this for all the youth. Unfortunately, most of them just try to find an opportunity in the developed country to gain knowledge and to find experts they can help them in their ideas and their project, for example. But this is lead in the last thing for headhunting for them, and most of them stay in this developed country. And we cannot see that these youth or professional go back to their homeland and contribute or try to solve this problem in these region, for example. Unfortunately, this is one of the problems that the MENA region has faced for about 20 years ago from now.
Thank you. One last word for Dr. Rabia. Do you want to say anything about this, youth brain drain in terms, is FAFS or, is AUB on track doing anything for the MENA youth in that perspective?
Of course, we're doing a lot, but there's always more to do when it comes to engaging the youth. My message here is that if you look at the global challenges, I encourage all of you to look at the World Economic Risk Report. They generate a risk report every year. And the report came very recently. The report doesn't say we need more bridge engineers, nor they say we need more civil engineers, nor they say we need a mechanical engineer. The challenge is that the global community is putting in front of us are basic. We're back to the basic. It's about food security. It's about water security. It's about education. It's the basic needs. And I think if you look at, I made a mapping a couple months ago of the things we do with our faculty of Agriculture and Food Sciences. We do, except for the Earth under sea, we do the other 16 Sustainable Development Goals. And I bet you go to any other discipline outside the agriculture discipline, that I challenge them, that discipline, to hit as many impactful boxes for the Sustainable Development Goals than the field of agriculture, where we look at the food security, we look at the no hunger, we look at the gender balance, we look at the health, we look at the energy, the bioenergy. This is a rich field. And I think it's understated in terms of the young minds. When they think of agriculture, they're thinking of their grandfather, where they go out with boots and mud and carrying a hose and a shovel. Agriculture as a discipline is much more than that. And I think we're not reaching out to the young people. And I'm going to call all on you to really reach out and disseminate the facts that the food discipline, the food and agriculture system needs you. It needs the data scientists, it needs the graphic designers, it needs the material engineer to design the future of the food and agriculture system so it becomes more sustainable, that can feed us in a way that does not hurt the environment, for a healthy, as our logo says, healthy people, healthy earth. So yes, we need to do more of the reaching out to the young people and work together towards building a better future. We messed up. My generation and the earlier generation, we messed up. So we need you to help. We can pass on what we learned, but there's lots to be done.
Thank you, Dr. Rabia, and thank you, Ahmed. And back to you, Mara, for our last and fourth intergenerational dialogue.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you, Natasha, and thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you. So we have our fourth intergenerational dialogue on South America, and we have two speakers as the other dialogue. So our youth representative is Joyce Mendes. So she's the co-founder of the Youth Network for Water in Paraguay, and also she's a member of the World Youth Parliament for Water, and she's part of the Blue Peace initiative and the Climate Reality Project in Brazil. And our expert intervention is from Andrés Felipe Sanchez Peña. So he is environmental economist from the Universidad de los Andes, and is a specialist from the Department of Sustainable Development within the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development at the Organization of American States. So, bienvenido. So I would like to ask the first question to Joyce. So how the youth organizations have engaged in providing solutions in the triple border area between Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay?
So, bom dia, buenos dias, Asia Pam. So, as you say, I'm going to bring like the perspectives of the triple border, or a Terra das Águas, the land of waters. As you know, it's a region that we actually have two large bodies, which is the Paraná River, setting borders between Paraguay and Brazil, and the Iguazu River as well, setting borders with Argentina and Brazil, like the home of the Iguazu Falls. As well as the Guarani Aquifer. So yeah, basically, given, we had at the beginning to study the history and geopolitics of the region, because as I had mentioned, like this region, we had a lot of issues in the past. Around 1860s, we had a war, Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay against Paraguay. It was called the Triple Alliance War. And we still see the consequences regarding kind of the, not just administratives, but as well as in the peoples in the region. So actually, two hydroelectrical plants, mainly Itaipu and Jazireta, were built in order kind of to solve some sovereignty border issues. However, we see that nowadays, especially in 2023, we're going to have the revisit of the agreements of these hydroelectrical plants. And as youth, we want to influence those negotiations, this, you know, like this hydro diplomacy in perspective, as well as kind of be included in the regional transboundary cooperation dynamic. So actually what we have done is we decided to be part of this political and social agreement. So we have actually been involved in the negotiation agenda by actually allowing to have a dialogue between both parties. I'm talking mainly of Paraguay and Brazilian side. At the same time, we have developed scenarios in hydropolitics, and as well as fostering a lot process in capacity building in the region. I have built a binational collective in the Paraná Basin Tree with youth. As well in Paraguay, we have developed the Youth for Water Network. Actually, every year since the World Water Forum in Brasilia, we have done the National Youth for Water Forum. This year is going to take place in June. Last year took place online, and this year also is going to be online because of our crisis. So pretty much we have developed continuous spaces of training, of capacity building, of integration, and as well of connection, because we realize we don't have time to build the road, to build the wheel. Like, we need to engage and involve this youth, and to have this transboundary cooperation, but also conversation, leaving behind these historical, cultural constraints. And at the same time, we see how we have been like a force in the region regarding climate, energy, and water cooperation, transboundary cooperation. Another aspect that we work a lot is in intergenerational and intercultural dialogue, respecting as well the local realities, but as well, we are not looking right now what's the best for Brazil or Paraguay, but for both of us in these negotiation processes. So that's kind of an overall of what we have done.
Thank you, Joyce. Andres, how do you think that the Organization for American States can support this project of the youth that Joyce has mentioned? Over to you.
Thank you, Mara. So, well, first of all, the Organization of American States, for most of you that might not know it because you're not from the region, the Organization of American States is like the UN. It's a body for the Americas region. It has 35 member states, and we're the main and highest political forum of the Americas. We do have different branches or different scopes of work. One of them development, the other one human rights, security, and democracy. The place where our work is focused is in development, but it's cross-cut to all the areas, like pretty much because water is everything. Water is life, water is youth, water is energy, water is democracy, water is human rights, and so on and so forth. In terms of the youth, we do believe that youth is key for promoting water governance and water governability. And we do believe that making sure that youth is engaged within the systems and the public participation mechanisms and the decision making for overcoming the challenges of water is key, but also is a huge opportunity for the systems and for the governments and for the institutions to promote innovative ideas, management skills, high adaptability. And also, we do believe that as you promote the agreements at the multinational level in youth, you will make sure that those agreements at least prevail during the years, and that they when they become like the decision makers or the future leaders, there is you are reducing the risk, no, of them having or changing their mindset, no, because you have to cultivate them. We do believe and we do work strongly in two things that all of you guys have mentioned. It is education and capacity building. It's like we know that we need to train and we need to be more efficient and more efficacious, no? Effective and efficient at promoting education at the levels and age of teenagers and even the agenda of kids, no? We have encountered like many challenges in the education agenda, as President Tork was mentioning, because all of the things that has to do with water being such a cross-cutting issue that touch like many angles, it is very difficult not only for the education materials to be prepared, the type of education that needs to be transmitted, but also for the systems to adapt. And by this, I mean in legislations, teachers, so on and so forth. So even though it is something that becomes and it is essential for the youth, it's not only the responsibility of them. It has to do a lot with policy, it has to do a lot with adaptation, with new processes, and some things that might overcome the inertia of many systems that we have already, especially in education. For us, youth is not the future, no? And I'm just like, now I go to the youth. It's not the future. It's like it's the present, and youth has a huge responsibility, and they do need to train themselves. They need to understand the challenges that they face, and they need to be, I wouldn't say not more active, but they need to be strategic in their actions. One of the areas where we work a lot is like we try to work in training them in governance, governability, social intelligence, political skills, for them to better communicate, understand the context that they are coming or facing, so that they can find better agreements and better solutions. You call it water diplomacy, you call it coaching, and so on and so forth. But we have identified that that is something that is pretty potent. For us, the youth is the key. Education is the main thing that we have to work on with them. We need to accompany them. As long as we are able to do it, we will bring them to the highest forum, to the higher stages, to wherever they need so that their voice can be heard, but we also need them to be trained, responsible of their investidura, we say in Spanish, and their duty within the society, no? As we do also believe, when you talked about policy, it is a set of systems and roles, and youth is one that is particularly important. It also comes with rights, but with responsibility. So that is pretty much the way we handle the youth in the OAS. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Laurie, we have time for a question.
Maybe one question.
Okay, I can ask the question myself.
Yes, you can go ahead, Mara.
So yes, I would like to ask. No, there are no in the region no important dams like no Itaipu, Yesireta. So no, there is a link no between water and energy policies. So how no do you see no that these two policies can be connected to foster political and economic integration? So maybe Joyce and then Andres, very short.
All right. So I see obviously basically what I have seen is that sometimes we talk about integration merely in infrastructure perspective, right? We say, okay, we're going to build a dam and then our regions are integrating. Yes and no, because yeah, we're talking about just one part. I'm talking about just infrastructure. So obviously you're bringing energy, you're bringing the development in a certain region. However, there are several processes that need to be involved regarding the community. Especially regarding like the approval, the consultation of the community. This is even more like an integration. And I just want to say that integration, especially in sustainability and the water, energy, and even food nexus, is not merely an infrastructure, but as well culturally, technically, scientifically, and as well like providing youth as well these spaces for capacity building. So yeah, it is. But as I said, there is another side of that integration process. But I think Andres can also give a different perspective or to complement.
Thank you. So Andres, over to you.
Thank you, Mara and Joyce. So yes, I mean the linkages are there, no, and even trying to separate the two sectors is like incommensurable. It's like that shouldn't be even talked in today language. So just to give more scope in complementing what Joyce was saying, in terms of water and energy nexus, they are linked. For the Americas region, we estimate that somehow like 70% of the water extraction that goes to agriculture activities, 60% of that energy is hydroelectrical plants. So that is a very, very strong argument. But as I think it was Ravi who was mentioning, we need to still go and dig deeper into those interconnections and the energy matrix of the systems or the basins. Now we call it within the basins. So we can, from that, what we could say is that hydropower and energy powers the Latin American economies. In terms of the demand, we do understand and we know that the increase of water demand because of energy sources of this type is going to increase in 35%. So more water is going to be needed for renewable energies. And also we estimate that only 22-23% of the hydroelectrical power potential of the region is being harvested. So everything, the scenario, what it shows is that the most feasible technologies or the most feasible source of energies that we will look into it's going to be hydropower. So this increases also like the relationship. And in terms of regional economic and integration, it's what Joyce was mentioned. No, it's like if you go through the Latin American region, you have the countries, but we are certainly sure that we can build a map with the main ecosystems, biomes, and basins. No, it's like if you took the Rio Bravo Basin in the north, you put it together with the Central American dry corridor and the Trifinio region, then you go to the Darien in Panama, you link it to the Amazon Basin and you link it to the Plata Basin, you will have like 5 pretty good ecosystems rich in water where all the hydropower and all the energy is being harvested. So that itself comes with integration. Of course, the systems, the countries, and you have many, many layers that needs to be still improved. But we do have, when we have done like some advances in terms of the regional energy systems that we have in, for example, in Central America all the way to Panama. And you have some integration mechanisms in the region, like in the Amazon Basin, in Cuenca del Plata Basin, where all those things are being brought to the table, but still there are many, many challenges. But all of the sectors and all of the actors agree that a water and energy nexus and being more efficient and have resilient infrastructures, bringing the dialogue together for cooperation on those areas is key. But in terms of the figures, it's like we know for a fact that in the region, that's the way it works. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that these insights can be also useful for other regions where the question of dams is disputed. Maybe the South American case should be brought more to the attention of also other regions around the world. So many thanks to Andres and Joyce, and I pass over to Francois. Thank you again.
Thank you to all of you. It was really, really a very rich exchange. And it's certainly not easy to make an abstract of all the elements. However, I believe that we all agree of the importance to involve youth and that we cannot prepare the future without the youth. We also had the discussion of the commitment or sometimes less commitment of the youth for the water domain. We discussed also the attractivity or not attractivity of this water domain. And it has been highlighted how this domain is complex, how this domain is need a lot of talent and certainly transboundary knowledge. And for this, we have to make a special effort to position the attractivity of this domain for researchers and scientists, and also for all the youth generation. And it has been proposed, Danilo proposed, that we have to include this early, and research has to be started in the primary school, elementary school, to give this attractivity on this subject. We also highlight the importance of agriculture. I take advantage of to be the last one to say how it's important to say this, because I have more than 20 years working in this domain, and I am afraid how agriculture is out of all the discussion in the water domain. When you are speaking on water, agriculture is not part of the dialogue, even if it's more than 90% of the water uses. So thank you to challenge this subject, to challenge also the fact that our future is linked with the possibility to reduce our water footprint, and also to have highlighted how our domain is not enough efficient. And definitively, water efficiency is a key issue that you have highlighted, and definitively we need the youth to tackle this subject. We had also some very interesting and positive suggestion. For example, from Danilo, Slovenia will have the presidency of the Council of the European Union this year. They will position water as in the center of the work. So it's an opportunity for the youth generation to ask this the Slovenian authorities and in this council what could be the role of the young generation and how they could play a role on this question on water and perhaps water and peace and security the upcoming months during this presidency of the EU. What more? Okay, you all also highlight the diversity of the water domain, that the water domain is not just a question of tube and it's a question of health, it's a question of agriculture, it's a question of environment, it's also a social issue, it's a diplomatic issue. So this is a very attractive and attractive domain, and definitively the young generation has to be part of all the reflection in this domain. I believe this, I didn't capture all the elements and of the rich discussion, but it's mainly what I retain for my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of you. Thank you to take part of this discussion. And as I said, it's just a first exchange. We have a website. You have our contact. Please, now we have to create and this community that you speak about today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Gracias.